Greetings, initiates. Jedediah Thomas here, the Mind Master. Today, I wanted to talk about the model of the mind. Be sure to like and subscribe. Follow along for more content on the mind, the subconscious mind, the conscious mind, traumas, limiting beliefs, motivation, and everything around that. So, you've heard me talk about it in quite a few videos. It's finally here. I did have it kind of drawn out before, but I wanted to make it really pretty looking because this is the core of everything that I do, and you'll be seeing it a lot. So I just wanted to make sure that it was really pretty for you to look at. So I got it professionally graphic designed, and here we are. So if you'll look here at the spectrum, you have basically what your mind is built out of, which is beliefs, emotions, and thoughts, which is the left side of the scale. And then that translates into the real world in the form of actions. And if you perform the same actions for long enough, they become habits. And then your habits ultimately shape your lifestyle. So, what we're trying to do here with the mastered mind is to get you to take the actions that you need to be taking that will ultimately form habits and change your lifestyle. The issue is that if you have traumas, if you have limiting beliefs, and if you lack motivation, then performing actions can be anywhere from annoying to moderately difficult to outright impossible because of all of these mental blocks that you have underneath that. So most people are aware of the thought level, right? That's what the conscious mind is. And I did another video about the conscious mind, so you can take a look at that, what that kind of amounts to. But our thoughts themselves are what we think about ourselves, what we think about life. Anything that we think is our thought level, right? So basically, anytime we have a conversation, anytime we come up with values or principles or ideas or anything like that, they're based on our thought level. And basically, we know it's the thought level because we're aware of it. Okay. So a lot of people talk about beliefs and, oh, you believe this, you believe that. And what they're talking about is not actually beliefs. What they're talking about is deeply ingrained thoughts that stem from underlying hidden emotions and underlying hidden beliefs, even below the emotions that cause the emotions. So anytime you see anyone talking about belief shifting, it's a very different thing than when I talk about it because my definition of beliefs is fundamentally different. So what they're doing is they're changing your thoughts, and that can sometimes have a retroactive effect and could affect your beliefs if you let it go down to the subconscious, but it doesn't necessarily, right? So anything that you do in terms of like affirmations, changing how you think, coping strategies, normal talk therapy, reframing situations, thinking about it, this way or that. Those are all good and okay, but they don't actually go deep enough to really affect lasting, permanent change. Okay. So then we have below the thought level, which is the emotional level. And of course, everyone is familiar with the emotions. Anytime you get angry, sad, happy, joyful, whatever, there is a chemical component to it, right? You have the hormones and different things, and then that affects your nervous system and how you physically respond to things. And basically, it also makes you feel certain type of way. Sometimes maybe when you feel sad, you might have a pit in your stomach. Sometimes when you feel happy, you'll feel kind of lighter and more joyful and more elevated, right? Now, the issue with most of science, neuroscience, and biological science is it assumes that emotions are the deepest level. And this is where I have a completely different way of looking at things. They think that you can break yourself down into fundamental building blocks of hormones and chemicals and molecules and atoms. And while that's true from a physical level, there is another level below that, right? And that is the intersection of our basically who we are as human beings, right? Our spirit, our soul, or whatever you want to call it, and our physical vessel that we occupy, which is our body, right? And so, what science doesn't account for is that we exist outside of our bodies, right? If our bodies go away, we still are there, right? We exist on an energetic level, on, you could say, an electromagnetic level, which is quantifiable. And we know that it exists, but for some reason, science refuses to acknowledge that because they think if they acknowledge it, then that assumes that one religion or another is correct, and that's not necessarily true. But I deal in real science, and there is no denying the fact that there is something about us deeper and more profound than our biochemistry, than our meat suit, if you will. And that is the belief level, right? Now, what I've discovered in through working with people, through having my own belief shifted, is that beliefs are the most fundamental code of our mind, right? And I did mention this before, it's separate than DNA. DNA is quantum coded, right? But beliefs are binary. It either exists or it doesn't exist. It's this way or it's not this way. It relates to this way or it doesn't, right? Or it causes this thing or is caused by this thing. Those are beliefs, and it is binary coding, zeros and ones. And depending on your beliefs, it will shape your entire perception of reality. It will control your emotions. It will control your thoughts and your actions, which lead to your habits and your lifestyle. So, what I do is I go beneath the thought level, which is what everyone thinks is where your beliefs are, and I go below the emotional level, which is what modern science says is the most fundamental level, and I go down to the actual most fundamental level of who we are as human beings, and I change that code, and literally everything else changes. I can get rid of trauma, I can get rid of pain, emotion, all of that stuff because I change the underlying beliefs that cause that emotion. If emotions were what caused thoughts or beliefs, right? If our biochemistry was the ultimate modifier, then by taking pills and changing our chemistry or changing our diet, we would change our beliefs. And that's not actually how it works in reality. What we have to do is we have to change our beliefs, and then that allow us to have different emotions about things. That allows us to have a different biochemistry, and it changes how our hormones are released and when, and that basically cycles up to our thoughts and our actions and everything above that, right? So where science is wrong is that it thinks that we can be reduced to hormones and chemicals and molecules, and it's simply not the case. I go quite a bit deeper on a much more fundamental level. Now, in terms of the subconscious, right, we talked about the conscious mind, which is like our thought level, sometimes our actions if we consciously decide to do them. But we have our emotions and our beliefs, and those are part of the subconscious mind, right? Now, our emotions are basically stemming from different parts of our body. As I talked about, you could have a pit in your stomach, or your heart could beat fast. There's different emotions that tag to different parts of our body. So it is a lot more holistic than just the brain. But the point is that our entire model of reality is contained in the subconscious, and all of our emotions about ourselves and life and all of that is contained in the subconscious. And in many ways, the emotions are the shield so that we can't actually see our own beliefs and change them. And above that, we have the thoughts, which is what we think are our thoughts, which is what we think are our beliefs, and that's not actually the case, right? So there is two levels below what you're used to seeing in therapy, and another level below what you're used to seeing in neuroscience or, um, you know, psychiatry with like medication and dieting and all of these things that change your biochemistry. And there is that fundamental level below that, and that's where I operate, on that belief level. Now, you'll also see on the bottom here is this bar of trauma. So trauma is actually not really part of your mind for real. It's kind of like a parasite that tags on, right? So it's just kind of attached. And basically what happens is it's a normal process that you go through. And when that process gets interrupted, it creates a trauma. And that trauma can tag to your beliefs. It can affect your emotions, your thoughts, your actions, your habits, and it can even prevent you from living a certain lifestyle if it hits that trauma. Right? So that's why trauma is across the whole thing, but it's separate from the whole thing. So that's the second layer that I work on, is the trauma layer. So I remove those traumas. They're extremely easy to remove once you know how the mind works and what trauma is and how to remove that. It takes about 5 minutes. Same thing with a belief. Once I actually see what is the belief level versus the thought level, I can get rid of it in 5 minutes. Very easy to shift a belief, very easy to remove a trauma. But the point is that unless you fix the beliefs, unless you remove the trauma, you will not have the right emotions, you will not have the right thoughts, you will not take the right actions, you will not build the right habits, and you will not have the lifestyle that you want. So everything that I do is around helping you to take action, and that requires me to change your beliefs, and that requires me to remove your trauma. And then in some cases, it's also helpful for you to increase your motivation, which works on the belief, emotional, and thought level, right? So I haven't talked too much about that. I will add a lot more content around motivation. But from what I've seen just with working with people, just changing their beliefs and removing their traumas is like the single most effective thing that they've ever seen in their life for getting them to do what they need to do. So I have several clients, and the results that they're seeing is nothing short of astounding. And basically they've tried every modality in existence and nothing worked except when I started working with them. And that's because I understand what the mind is and how this model works, and I know about the belief level, for one, and then two, I know how to actually change the belief level. So I take a 0 and I turn it to a 1. I take a 1 and turn it to a 0, and that changes everything about what you think about life and what you think about yourself in reality. So I believe that was kind of a long explanation. It was a lot to go through. This is probably your first exposure to this model, but this is the model that I created when I first started coaching of the mind, right? Mindset coaching. And it has been what has caused all of my modalities to exist, from trauma to limiting beliefs, to motivation. I also worked on how to resolve grief, and all of these other things, and even helping people who have ADHD to be able to focus better and be able to basically function like a normal person. Basically anything that's wrong with the mind is treatable if you understand how it works, apart from a structural thing. Like if you have part of your brain removed in surgery, I'm not 100% sure about that. Or if there's like an actual biochemical problem, like your thyroid is bad and that could affect your hormones, I'm not sure about that yet. But as I work on more people, as I kind of compile the research and expand who I work on and what problems I fix, there is a good possibility that a lot of that could be resolved as well, but you'll just have to see. So thank you for tuning in. I'll make a lot more videos with that model as basically the base of what I do, and it explains pretty much everything. And then I'll have other models that kind of focus on specific parts as well to help you understand on a deeper level. So once again, I'm Jedediah Thomas, the Mind Master. Please, like and subscribe if you haven't already. Find me on Facebook. The link is in the descriptions. And just stay tuned for more content on the channel. Thanks. Bye.